Aaron, can you hear me?
Yes, I do. Uh,
Okay, welcome to class. My name is Michelle. I'm going to wait a few more minutes to see if our other students show up, okay?
Okay,
Okay. How are you doing?
I'm fine. The class sounded interesting, so I decided to take it.
Great. I'm glad you showed up. We've got two more people that said they're coming, so we're going to wait a few more minutes. Where do you live currently?
What? Sorry?
Where do you live currently?
Oh, I live in Buenos Aires.
Oh, cool. Me too.
Yeah, I read your resume or introduction,
My
I guess.
description. Uh-huh.
Yeah, description.
Exactly. Good. Is there one more student that just joined? 1 second. Okay. Well, I'm going to get started, and if someone comes in later, will introduce themselves as well. So my name is Michelle, and I want to welcome you to another Linguistiko class. I will be your teacher today while we talk about writing emails for business situations. So writing formal emails in business setting is very important and usually an everyday task for people at work, especially with the increasing presence of the internet and technology at work. Okay? So it's necessary to maintain formality in emails and also be concise about answering and writing these emails. So we'll all encounter this at some point, right, in our jobs and in our lives. So we're going to talk about some different business situations, ways to start emails, ways to end emails, and then we're going to go through some examples and read them together. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Great. Okay. So first we're going to talk a little bit about greetings, right? So the way that we start. Oh, we've got a new member. Hi, Simon. Can you hear me? Simon, can you hear? Is your microphone connected?
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to class.
Thanks. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you? Can you see and hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you and see you very well.
Great. Okay. If you feel comfortable, you can turn on your video, but you don't have to.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Great. So I just gave the introduction. I'll do it one more time. So my name is Michelle. Welcome to another Linguistiko class. This class is about business email writing. So we're going to talk about some situations and some examples of formal writing in the workplace. Sound good? Simon? Can you hear me?
I do.
Great. Sorry, your name shows up as Renzo. What's your name? What's your first name?
My name is Renzo.
Renzo, okay, great. So we got Renzo and Simon. Simon, can you confirm that you can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you well, but I'm trying to fix my auriculars so that I can hear you better.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay, so do you guys have to write emails a lot in your work situations? Is this something that you encounter frequently? How about you, Renzo? Do you have to write a lot of emails for work?
Not really, but I usually apply for some jobs at Craigslist. So I have to write in English, and I don't feel very comfortable doing it.
Great. Well, this is the class for you then. We'll talk about the right way to start an email. What about you, Simon? Do you have to write emails at work?
Yeah, indeed. I gotta write many emails, so I'm trying to improve because sometimes it's awkward when you are writing and formal and you wanna make it nicer. So I need this part to improve my English, my writing English.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to share really quickly. So we're going to talk about greetings at first, right? So how do you start? So here we go. So the best way to start a formal email, right, is with dear. We've got dear Mr., Mrs., Miss, Doctor, right? So we use Mr. if it's a man, Mrs. if they're married. If you're not sure about which to use, Mrs. or Miss, the best default is to go with Miss, just MS. And if they have another title, like professor, or they're the dean, governor, we use the full word, so not the abbreviation. Okay? And if you're not sure about the gender, so if you're not sure if it's a man or a woman, you default to the full name. So you're going to say, like, Dear Jane Smith, right? If you're not sure. So you're going to say, Dear Taylor Smith, Dear Jane Smith, just to avoid any confusion. Other good words to start with are hello, good morning, good afternoon. But we want to make sure that we keep it to these four, because otherwise you have the risk of being too informal. So for example, things like hi, hey, those are words you want to avoid in more formal situations, okay? And then starting up an email, it's always a good idea to do a little bit of small talk, right? So you want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Another good tactic is to say, I hope this finds you well, right? I hope you're doing well. And then you're going to want to go on and state your purpose, right? So this depends if you're, for example, applying for a job, like Renzo said. You're going to want to say, my name is, and I'm writing in response to the post. I am writing because I saw your message. I'm writing because I saw the ad. You always want to make sure that in the first few lines, you state exactly who you are and exactly why you're writing. Okay? Or, in another situation, if you're at work and you're responding to an email, a nice way to start the email is to thank the other person for their message. So for example, if you're responding to an email, you might want to say, thank you for your message, regarding scheduling. And then you're going to continue. Okay? So, just to do a little recap. So what's a good way to start an email? So for example, Renzo, how would you start an email if you were applying for a job? What are the things you would say? What greeting would you use?
I don't like very much using dear, so I'll go with hello, Mr. Or Mrs.
Or good afternoon, good morning.
Yes, and then I will introduce myself and say why I am writing to them.
Mhm. Exactly, great. So what about you, Simon? How would you respond to an email?
Okay, as my fellow mentioned, I would like to say that may possibly I'll greet the person that I'm talking with darling or dear.
So
Or
darling is a little informal, but dear is usually the go-to for business situations.
yeah,
Darling could be considered too informal and a little too intimate for a business situation, but dear is always good to go.
yeah. So I will use dear and good morning, good afternoon, or
Mhm.
those kinds of greetings.
Mhm. So what would you say if you were responding to an email? How would you start a response? What's the first thing you would do?
Okay, I don't have time to ask the person about how is he feeling. I will say, I hope you're okay.
Mhm.
Thanks for sending me that email. I appreciate what you did. And some things
Exactly.
like that.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's important to know that you don't have to ask them how they're doing. You can just say something like, I hope this
yeah, I
finds you
hope.
well. I
Yeah,
hope you're doing well. Exactly. Good. Great. Okay.
thanks.
Good. So let's look at some examples real quick. Here we go. So starting email. So for example, this one. Dear Mrs. Smith. Renzo, could you read this one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Um, Dear Mr. Smith,
Mrs.
good
Smith.
morning. Oh,
Good.
Mrs.
Good.
I don't know the abbreviation, sorry.
It's okay, no worries.
But what is it? Mrs.?
Mrs. When there's an S at the end, it's Mrs.
Okay.
Good.
Dear Mrs. Smith, good morning. I hope this finds you well. My name is Robert, and I'm writing with a question about the schedule
Schedule. Good. Schedule.
schedule
Good.
for today. When does the meeting start?
Perfect. Good job. Okay. So right, like we saw before, where they've got good morning, and I hope this finds you well, and then we've got an introduction and the reason for the email, right? So straight to the point, very concise, nice and formal, and then exactly what they want to know. Good. So what about Simon? Could you read the second one for me?
For sure, I will.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Professor Jenkins. Thank you for your message. I can meet you to. I can meet. I can meet with you today at 4 p.m. That's the time work for you?
Good, perfect, good job. So once again, this is an alternative to dear, right? You don't always have to start with dear. You can say good afternoon. And this is an example for someone with a different title, right? So you know they're a professor, so you're going to address them by Professor Jenkins. And then this is a response email, so you start with thanking the person for the message, and then getting right to the question. Good. Any questions about this one?
Yeah, every time I wrote an email, I don't use the contractions like I'm. I write I am. It's okay to put I'm
Uh,
just for the.
Contractions aren't necessarily informal,
Oh, okay.
but
Okay,
they're
that was
both
my
right.
question.
Okay, no, yeah, they're both grammatically correct. So either way. What about you, Simon? Do you have any questions?
No, I haven't, but I'm good, I think, at writing. But I would like to know more about curriculums and those
Uh,
kinds of
about
curriculums.
more? Sorry.
I would like to know more about curriculums.
Curriculums?
Yes.
What do you mean by curriculums?
How to write them, how to maybe make a good impression or something like this.
Mhm.
Because you know that you gotta write it.
Because what? Sorry. Sorry, I'm
You know
having trouble
that
hearing
you
you.
have to write. So to make your curriculums nicer, you will need to write many things that make a good impression.
Mhm. By curriculum, do you mean CV, like a resume?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, right. So that's a whole nother topic. I'm sure we'll have a class on that soon. But so a CV is something that you would attach to an email. So these are tips to write the email at first, right? To say, good morning, I hope this finds you well. I'm attaching my resume for the position that I found. My name is this. I have experience in this field. And then the resume, the curriculum, is going to be something that you attach as a document to this email.
Yeah, I'm following you.
Right?
Yeah, great.
Great. Any other questions? No. Okay.
No.
Okay, so now we're going to talk, so those are some quick tips on how to start an email, right? So be nice, be cordial, say things like good morning, I hope this finds you well. Now we're going to look at how to wind down. So once you say the bulk of your email, so for example, if you're applying for a job, we'll do the things we just talked about and then say I'm attaching the CV, I found this ad on Craigslist, I found this ad in the newspaper, my name is so-and-so, and then here are some nice tips on how to wind down, how to end the email. So we'll look at this right now. So formality, winding down. So this is especially important if you're applying for a job, right? So you're going to ask for a response. So you can say things like, I hope to hear from you soon, right? I await your response. Looking forward to hearing back from you soon. Right? Please let me know when you're available if you're asking for an interview or trying to arrange some sort of meeting. So these are all different ways that you can ask for a response. So if you're asking a question, asking for availability, asking for an interview, asking for a job, these are all going to be very important that you include at the end. Another thing is if you're responding to an email, you want to say thanks, right? So thank you for contacting me. Thank you for consulting me about this. Thank you for asking. And then you can say also, I appreciate your email, right? Like, I'm glad you emailed me. And another way to sign off is to wish them well, right? I hope you're doing well. Have a great day. Some other formal, nice things that you can say to sort of end an email. So let's go ahead and see what you guys would do. So, Renzo, how would you end an email if you were asking for a job? What's one of the phrases you could use?
The one that I use the most is hope to hear from you soon, but it's good to have other options.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yep, so you could also say, like, looking forward to hearing back. I await your response. Good. Okay, Simon, what about you? How would you say thanks for an email or say that you're waiting for a response? Or wish them well? How would you end an email?
I would say that I appreciate. Um, I will say I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
That you're looking for what? Sorry?
I will say that I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Good, exactly, good. Looking forward to hearing from you. Perfect. So all good things to have up your sleeve.
By the
Okay.
way, can you hear me well?
Sorry?
Can you hear me well?
More or less. I can hear you fine.
Because I'm trying to fix it. I don't know.
I can hear you fine. I'll just ask you to repeat a few things, that's all. Okay, so those are good ways to end an email. This is in the body of the text. So now we're going to go through a few ways to sign off, right? So to actually put your name. So after you say things like awaiting for your response, I hope this finds you well, you're going to want to say things like cordially, sincerely, best regards, thanks again for your message, awaiting your reply, best wishes. These are all adequate things that you can say in a formal setting, and then you put your name afterwards, right? So you could put, I hope this finds you well, I'm waiting for your response, best regards, Michelle, right? Or best regards, Renzo, Simon, right? So which ones do you guys like to use, and which ones do you think you will use now? What about Renzo? Which ones do you usually use? How do you usually sign off an email?
Usually, if I say something like thanks for if they already replied once, thanks for the opportunity or something like that. Sincerely, yes. But first mail, I usually choose wait for the response.
Mhm. Okay, great. What about you, Simon? Which ones do you like to use and which ones are new that you can use now? Simon? I think, oh, there we go.
Hello. One that I use the most it is best regards and
Best regard.
sincerely and sincerely
And
sincerely.
good. Great. So those are great. So you can always, a good default one, right, is you can always just say thank you with a comma and then put your name. That's always a good one. And best regards, best wishes are also nice formal ways to sign off. Okay. So now we're going to do some examples again. So I'm going to pull up the screen. So Renzo, could you read the one up top?
Yes. Thank you for your time. I hope you're doing well. I'm looking forward to your response. Best regards, Michael.
Good. Perfect. Good job. Okay. And Simon, can you read the one on the bottom, please?
Okay. Blessed. Please let me know when you are available. Thank you for consulting me on this matter. Thanks again, Box Sergeant.
Good. Good job. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about these examples?
No?
No. Simon?
No, I got
Nope.
it.
Okay,
Everything
great.
is perfect.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so those are just examples on how to start and how to end emails. So now we're going to talk a little bit about subject line. So do you guys know what a subject line is?
It's to resume the reason of the mail.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, right, so it's what you see when you get an email in your inbox. It's what usually shows up at first, right? So it's really important to have a good subject line. So there's going to be some do's and don'ts for subject lines, right? So you're going to really want to let your reader know what the email's about, right? So if it's a job application, you can say, the position you're applying for. You can say job application, teacher application, assistant application. Make sure you're specific about what it's about. And so the other thing is to keep it short but informative. Right? So you don't want it to be a whole sentence or a whole paragraph, just a few words that are helpful and let the reader know what they're getting into by reading the email. So some don'ts, some things you don't want to do, are make it sound too urgent when it's not. So you don't want them to be in all caps. You want it to be in capital and lowercase. Or don't use excessive punctuation. So it's really informal to use exclamation marks or question marks or more than one period or exclamation mark. It's really informal and unprofessional. And make sure that you're not too vague or give a misleading subject line. So for example, if you're asking a question about a meeting, you don't want the subject line to say, lunch on Tuesday. You want to make sure that it has to do with what you're saying. So Simon, have you ever gotten an email that has a misleading subject line? Or no
Yes,
subject?
yes, I've done it because with subject line, because at university I gotta write emails,
Mm-hmm.
so I have to write urgent requests.
Urgent request. So is that an example of a good subject line or a bad subject line?
About subject line.
A bad subject line, right? Urgent request, right? Because A,
Yeah,
it's too urgent, right? And B, it's not specific, right? What kind of request is needed? If something is urgent or important, the subject line should say that it's urgent, but also what it's about, right? Urgent
yeah,
problem scheduling, urgent problem, I don't know, urgent problem professor ratings, something like that, right? Okay.
yes, indeed.
Okay. So what about you, Renzo? Have you ever sent or received an email with a subject line that was confusing or not helpful?
Uh, um, Not really. No, I don't use mail a lot more than just for applying for jobs and stuff like that. Since I'm not in a company, I don't get like a memo going around
Mhm.
and need those needs to response.
Okay, so then what do you usually put as your subject line if you're sending an email with a resume or a CV?
Oh, I write a job offer or job a description of the job I'm applying for.
Great, good. Okay, so we're going to look at some examples now and talk about whether they're good or bad subject lines. So this is what I just went over, right? The do's and don'ts. Make sure it lets your reader know what the email is about. Short but informative. And the don'ts, right? Don't make it sound urgent if it's not. Don't use excessive punctuation, and don't be vague or misleading, right? You want to let the reader know exactly what they're about to read. So here's some good or bad ones. So, Renzo, could you read the first one?
Yes. Important. Tomorrow's schedule.
Schedule, perfect, good. So is that a good subject line or a bad subject line?
It's bad because it's capitalized and it has exclamation points all over the place.
Exactly. Good job. Okay. Simon, could you read the second one?
Subject: scheduling questions for sis.
Good. So is this an example of a good subject line or a bad subject line?
In my opinion, yes, it's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Good. And why? Why is it good?
I think it's concise. Um, it can be understood very well.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, so another good idea, right? Especially when it comes to scheduling or subject lines, it's always a good idea to put the date, right? So if a scheduling question, you're going to put, oh, it's obviously for the 4th of the 4th of June, right? So it's very specific without being too wordy or too urgent. Good. Okay. Renzo, could you read number 3?
Yes. Subject. What happened?
Good. And is it a good one or a bad one?
I have another bad one. Besides the fact that it is a question, it also has an exclamation point.
And it's not very specific, right? So if you're wondering what
Very
happened,
vague.
exactly. So what would be a better subject line, do you think? If something happened and you don't know what to do, what would be a better way to present?
Um, you can start with about and then say the matter that you're wondering about.
Exactly, good. So if it's what happened with a meeting or something, you could say problem with the meeting, things like that. Exactly. Good. Okay. Simon, could you read the 4th one, please?
Lack subject.
No subject, exactly. So this actually happens a lot, right? So if people forget to write a subject line, or
Yeah.
if their computer sends the email before. So is this an example of a good or a bad subject line, and why?
Okay, I would say that it depends on the occasion.
Okay.
If you aren't going to say something important, possibly or surely you wouldn't have to send a subject if you are talking with a friend and he knows what you're talking about. Maybe you can avoid it or maybe skip it. But when you are talking with formal English or when you are talking formally, you will have to write a subject. So I would say it's bad, I think.
Exactly, good. So especially when we're talking about business situations, it's going to be definitely a don't, right? So you always want a subject. So especially if you're doing things like applying for jobs or asking questions that you need answers to, you're going to want to put a subject, or else the reader may not even read it, right? May not just throw it away, think that it's spam, lots of possible things, right? You always want to give a subject. Okay. Okay, then.
I wanted to say something about the example before.
Yeah.
Sometimes my dad, since he's my dad, he sends me a lot of emails about bills and stuff like that with no subject. And then when I want to look it up, I don't know, a couple months later, and you want to search it with the in the email, you can't find it because there's no subject.
Exactly. No, it's a big problem, right? So subject lines not only help people figure out what you're going to talk about, but you're right, they also help people later on if they need to search for the email that they're talking about. So that's a good example.
Yes, but sometimes we tend to skip it.
Right, but so in business situations, it's really important not to.
Yeah,
Exactly. Good, okay.
you're right.
So, okay, so Renzo, can you read the next one, please?
Yes. Meeting notes from Monday.
Good. So is that an example of a good one or a bad one, and why?
Yeah, I think it's a good one.
Why?
It sounds like somebody missed that meeting or somebody wanted notes on that meeting, and so they're specifying that when did it happen, and
Exactly,
they're
good.
saying that.
Right, it's concise. You know exactly what the email is going to be about. You know when the meeting notes are from. Good. Good job. Okay. Simon, could you read the next one?
Hi.
Hi. So what do you think about that? Good or bad in a business situation, and
Okay, as
why?
far as I'm concerned,
hmm
it's very vague, I think, but I don't know what's a target. It will be good, but not in business English.
Exactly, right? So you're not going to want to send your boss an email with the subject line hi, right? You're going to want to be a little bit more specific. This is definitely too vague for any situation when you're talking about a workplace. Good. Okay. Next one, Renzo, could you read?
Page proofed for Linden book.
Good. Is that a good example or a bad example?
Well, I think it's a good one, but I don't understand what it means.
So page proofs are, for example, if you work in publishing or if you work in an office that works with books, page proofs are what you see before the books become official.
Before you edit it.
Like the draft, right? Like the first draft. Like, let's make sure these look okay before we send them out.
Okay.
Good. So is it good or bad, and why?
I think it's okay. I bet it has a attached document, so you'll know what is it about.
hmm Exactly. Good. It's specific. Good. It's not vague at all. Good job. Okay. Simon, could you read the next one?
Okay, subject. Lunch on Tuesday.
Lunch on Tuesday. Good or bad, and
I
why?
think it's good. It's concise and it's explaining the topic that is gonna that is going to be carried
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. So one of the things I try to do with these examples is make sure if you're talking about interviews, scheduling, anything that has to do with dates, you really always want to include in the subject line either the specific date or the day of the week that it's happening. Good. Okay. Renzo, could you read the last one?
Yeah. Help me. Need ideas for project.
Good. So is that a good example or a bad example?
Well, it's a bad example, but it could work with just a tiny bit of modifying, editing it.
So how would you modify it to make it a good subject line?
I need help with ideas for the project, not writing a number and just not capitalizing in the exclamation point mark.
Exactly. Good. Good. Good job. Okay. Awesome. Do you guys have any questions about subject lines or what's appropriate and not appropriate?
No, I don't.
No? What about you, Simon? Any questions?
It's fine.
It's fine? Great. Okay. So now we know to be very specific, not to be concise, and always have a subject line. I think sometimes people forget to write subject lines, and it's very important. So now we're going to look at some full-length emails and try to pick out the good things and the bad things. So there's two emails, and both have good things and both have bad things. So first we're going to look at one, just the text, and then we're going to look at it with the red and green to see what's done right and what's done wrong. Okay? So I'm going to pull this out. We're going to read it together. So I want you guys to read it twice. So I'm going to ask Renzo to read it once, and then I'm going to ask Simon to read it once. So here we go. Okay, so Renzo, could you go first?
Yes. Um, Dear Mr. Small, I need to talk to you. I hope this finds you well. My name is Sally and I work in the finance department. I'm writing because we need some more personal information from you in order to process payment this month. Please let us know of your home address and social security for payment purposes. Thank you, and I await your response. Hugs and kisses, Sally B.
Good. Good job. Okay, Simon, could you read it once through? Simon?
Okay.
Okay.
Dear Mr. Small, I need to talk to you. I hope this finds you well. My name is Ali and I work in the finance department. I'm writing because we need some more personal information from you in order to process your payment this month. Please let us know of your home address and social security for payment purposes. Thank you, and I'm awaiting your response. Thousand Philip B.
Good. Okay. So, first we'll talk to Renzo. So, what's one good thing and one bad thing that they do in this email?
One on one. I can see it right now. Should I click on your picture to see it? Because when Simon is speaking, I only have his like little blue guy in the screen.
Oh, okay, here. So when I'm speaking, it should
Oh,
show.
there
Okay,
he muted.
now? Okay.
Um, Well, I think it starts good,
Uh-huh.
and I don't like how it ends. The hugs and kisses, very informal.
Exactly.
Uh,
So you're never going to want to sign off a formal email with XOXO, right? Definitely a no-no. So what's a good thing? So that's a bad thing. So what's a good
so
thing?
the thing is the start and what's the matter about. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's in the middle. I said like pretty good.
Cool. Good. Okay. What about you, Simon? What's one good thing and one bad thing? So there's one that's a little bit more subtle that's bad, but I'll talk about it in the next slide. So Simon, what do you think? What's one good thing and one bad thing?
I agree. Everything my companion said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the beginning was perfect. The end, she made a mistake.
So everything else was perfect except for this. Is that what you both say?
Yes,
Yes?
Maybe
Okay.
the
but
I
I
need
gotta
to
check it.
talk to you. It's,
Oh, sorry. Renzo, what were you saying?
that maybe the I need to talk to you. It's unnecessary because she's already saying what's the matter. So
Exactly. So this is actually the more subtle thing that's wrong, right? I need to talk to you. It's a little bit too direct and can sometimes come off as rude, especially because from this email we can tell that they don't know each other, right? Because she says, my name is Sally and I work in the finance department. So they don't know each other. So I need to talk to you is a little bit too informal to start an email, right? The right way to start it would be say something nicer and polite, right? Like, I hope this finds you well. So good. So like we were talking about, so the things in green are the good things we learned about, and the things in red are the bad, right? So the start of the email is good, right? Dear Mr. Small, right? We always want to start things with dear, good afternoon. So the I need to talk to you, like Renzo said, good job, is a little bit too much. It's not totally wrong, but I wouldn't advise it for a formal business email. It's a little bit too strong. And then, like I said, nice and polite things. I hope this finds you well. Introducing herself and stating the purpose, right? Stating exactly why she's writing. So there's not too much small talk. There's exactly enough, right? I hope this finds you well. My name, my reason. And then she ends it, right, awaiting for a response. Because the whole purpose of the email is to solicit information, right? They want the address and the social security number. So thank you, and I await your response. And then you guys both got it right, right? This is not a good way to end an email. XOXO should generally be avoided unless you're talking to your family or your sister or your mom, right? Okay. So we're going to look at one more. Do you guys have any questions about that one? About the email?
No.
No.
Nope. Okay. All good. Okay, so we're going to look at one more. I'm going to have you both read it. Okay. Here we go. Okay, Simon, could you go first this time? Could you read this email?
Okay, I'll do it. Hey, 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 Mrs. G. Good morning. Thanks for your message. Tomorrow the meeting will be at 12 o'clock noon in the conference room upstairs. Please don't be late. I look forward to seeing you there. I hope you're doing well. Best regards, the person who works across the hall.
Good. Okay. Renzo, can you read it through once too?
Yeah. I'm going to. Hey, 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 Miss G. Good morning. Thanks for your message. Tomorrow the meeting will be at 12 o'clock noon in the conference room upstairs. Please don't be late. I look forward to seeing you there. I hope you're doing well. Best regards, the person who works across the hall.
Good. Okay. So let's go back to Simon. So do you see anything wrong? What's one good thing and one bad thing that the writer of this email does?
Okay, first of all, she starts really bad.
Right. Hey, hey, hey is not a very formal greeting. Right.
Good morning is a good one because she's breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for
Okay,
your
so
message.
then what would you write instead of hey, hey, hey? What's a good way to start?
Dear Miss G.
Dear Miss G. Okay. And what's one good thing? What's one thing that the writer does great?
Once again?
What's one good thing, right? So you said that hey, hey, hey is bad. So what's an
Yes.
example of something that they do right, that they do correctly? What's a good thing about the email?
Okay. Good morning.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks
Good
for
morning.
your.
And thanks for your message. Good. Good.
Yeah.
Right? So it's obvious that the response, right? Because this is thanks for your message. So they're responding to someone. It's always a good way to start a response by thanking someone for the message. Okay. Okay. Renzo, what about you? Can you say one good thing and one bad thing about the email?
Well, I think the bad thing it's pretty obvious on this one. I was wondering about Miss G. She's the first letter. Is that okay?
Yeah, so you're right. So the whole thing is bad, right? So hey, hey, hey is bad, and also G, right? So you're gonna want to either call people by their full names, just their last name, like Mr. Smith, Mr. White, or their whole name, right? So
Yeah.
like Walter.
It sounded kind of ghetto, like from the movies. That's why I asked.
Exactly, right? It's not proper for an email situation. Good. So that's a bad one. So can you find one more bad example?
I think like they don't know each other because he's saying who he is in the end, but doesn't actually tells it. But he's like, I look forward to seeing you there, and like they don't know. So.
Exactly. So this is another example of something bad, right? So you're not going to want to say, best regards to the person who works across the hall. You're going to want to sign your name. You're going to want to sign your full name every time you write an email. This might seem a little unnecessary after a while, but it can get confusing in a business situation where there's lots of emails going from lots of different people. So you're always going to want to sign your name. So this is kind of silly, right? There's also an exclamation mark, which is not appropriate. So you're right. So this is bad. So what's something that they do well? What's a good thing?
Oh, the introduction and the information. Tomorrow the meeting will be at 12. That's okay.
Good. What about signing off? Is the sign off good? Is the last sentence or this, are these okay?
Yes, I think they are.
Good, okay, good. Good job. So let's take a look. Yep, so we did a good job, right? So very informal, not appropriate for a business email, right? All of it, right? So not just the hey, 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 but the abbreviation. We're going to want to avoid abbreviations with people that we either don't know personally, or don't have any sort of close relationship with. And generally, in business situations, you're going to always want to do the full name. So, and then a good thing, right? Good morning, greeting, thanks for your message, responding. And then at the end, I look forward to seeing you, and I hope you're doing well. And best regards. And in the bad way, right? The person who works across the hall. Okay.
Didn't he know? Didn't they know each other?
Sorry?
Didn't they know each other?
But it's very clear that it's a work situation, right? Because they're responding about what time the meeting will be, right? Tomorrow the meeting will be at 12 o'clock noon in the conference room upstairs. And there's please don't be late, right? So it's still a formal business email, so these kinds of things are still kind of inappropriate, especially with the exclamation mark, right? The punctuation is not appropriate to be using in a business email. These are things you can say to your friends, to your family, but when we're talking about a professional setting, they're generally going to be things you want to avoid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say that you got an email from someone asking to schedule an interview, asking when you're available, right? So Renzo, let's start with you. So how would you respond to an email? So you already sent your resume, and they responded to you saying, thank you for your resume. When are you available for an interview? How would you start the email? What would you say? How would you end it?
I will say, dear uh, John Smith, uh, thank you for responding in like short time or responding
Thanks for
fast.
responding quickly. Thank you for responding in such a
Okay.
short time. Exactly.
Or thank you for your interest. I'll say when I'm ready. Like I have this week available from 9 to 10, something like that. Uh, Hope to hear again from you soon, or I hope we can fix the meeting soon. And just regards, friends.
Great. Awesome. So yeah, so I wouldn't use the word fix, I would use arrange, right? Like if we can arrange a meeting soon.
Arrange.
Exactly. Good job. Perfect. Awesome. Good. You greeted them well, right? You had a nice, cordial, polite beginning, said thank you for the message, gave the information you needed, and were clear and concise. Because one of the important things about business emails is to get to the point, right? Because sometimes people write very long emails, and when you're talking about a business situation, you just have to say what you want to say and be done. So good. It's very good, very short, very concise. Good. So what about you, Simon? How would you respond to an interview? Someone that's asking you for availability for an interview. How would you greet them? What salutation would you use? How would you sign off, etc.?
Okay. Yeah. Good morning. I'm glad you wrote me back.
I'd like to what? Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
You wrote to me back.
But yes, thank you for writing me back.
Yeah.
Right? It's always good to appreciate the response. Good.
I'll be available as soon as possible. Or you can tell me your schedule. I'll be there.
Good. And how would you close the email and how would you sign off?
I will finish by saying best regards. I hope to see you soon.
I hope to see you soon. Good. And your full name, right?
I hope to see you soon. Yes.
Good. Okay. So one more role play situation. So let's say you get an email from your boss asking you what happened at the meeting on Monday. So your boss didn't show up to a meeting, and you were there on Monday. So what would you put as the subject line? How would you start the email? How would you end the email? And what would you say? Renzo, you first.
I will start like
So first the subject line. What would be the subject line?
meeting on the date. I don't remember.
Yeah, Monday, but you could say the exact date, right? December 29th, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. On that day, then I hope this finds you well.
Okay.
Or here are the notes and the little resume of what happened, what we discussed, what we agreed. If you have any further question, please contact me, and then I will. I hope you have a good day. Sincerely.
Perfect. Good. Awesome. Okay, what about you, Simon? What would be the subject line, and how would you go about responding to your boss's email?
Okay, the subject line will be Monday meeting. The meeting took place in blah blah, you know. Mm, I would say the meeting took place in Avenue, California. We
Sorry,
have
the meeting
took place
took place.
in Avenue, California. Is an example.
Okay.
We shared about marketing. They gave us a good topic and shared with us back. We did what you asked we to do. I hope you're okay. Best regards.
Best regards. Great. Good job. Okay. So another thing we've always got to keep in mind, right? We always have to be respectful, right? So this is the big thing in business writing. So this is what differentiates a personal email to your mom or to your sister, right, from an email that you would send to your boss or to a potential employer, a recruiter, or anyone in a more formal setting, right? So always be respectful. So the big thing about business email writing, right? Always be clear and concise. So sometimes it's easy to get a little bit carried away. I don't know, talking about the weather, talking about your experiences. But when it comes to business, things need to be efficient and quick and clear and concise, right? So always state who you are. Always say why you're writing in the first, 2 or 3 sentences. There should always be front and center as to, who you are and what you're doing. So that's a big deal. Don't use a first name if you aren't very close. So in the majority of situations in businesses, right, you're not going to be on a first name basis with your employer or your colleague, right? It's going to really depend on your relationship with the person, but generally, if they're in a higher position or your boss, your boss's assistant, you're going to want to use the last name, the full name. And then if the other person initiates an email with just the first names, then it's usually fine to resort to using a first name basis. But always at first, if you're not sure, default for the more formal, right? So you're always going to want to go more formal rather than informal. It's always safer in a business environment to be too formal than it is to be informal, because informal can come off as being rude, or not knowing your place, which can have really bad consequences in the workplace, right? So, can you guys think of other things not to do in emails? What about Simon? Can you think of anything that you've seen or experienced or maybe even done yourself in an email that you've realized later that is not okay?
I think it's important to have a separate email for your business because sometimes you send like a chain message, or maybe there is sometimes it sends by itself when it has like some kind of virus or something. So you don't want that going around in your business contacts.
That's also, you made a really great point. That's something that I wanted to cover too, is that make sure your email address, right, the email address itself is professional. Because sometimes if you have, I don't know, a nickname or something funny as your email, sometimes that can come off as being very unprofessional. So it's a good idea to have your email be your last name, your full name, or something simple, right? Don't have it something be like I love cats 45, right, at gmail.com. You always want to make it something that's professional, doesn't sound funny, because you'd be surprised how many people send emails from their email that has their nickname from the 4th grade, and it doesn't seem very professional. So it's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. What about you, Simon? Do you have any experiences?
Okay. Trying not to be vague in order that you can avoid maybe being misunderstood, or maybe bringing things and they are misunderstanding, or they will have a misinterpretation.
Right, so don't be vague, exactly. It's really easy to sort of err on the side of being too vague in business emails, and the most important thing is to be concise.
Yes.
Exactly. Did you say something else? I'm sorry, I think the connection is...
My goodness, I forgot.
Sorry?
I forgot what I said.
Okay, no worries. But you're right, so being vague is...
I just say certainly.
Sorry?
I just said certainly.
Certainly, okay. No worries, yeah. So you always have to be concise and clear and not very vague.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So let me put this back up. Okay. Okay. So what else have you learned today? Is there anything else that you would give advice after this class to someone else who didn't know how to write a business email? What would you stress as the most important things? Renzo, what would you tell someone if they asked you for advice about how to send a resume to an employer? What would you tell them to do?
Well, I will say I will advise on the subject on how to start, and in not being vague and not talking like you say about the weather or anything. Like just go to the point, then say that you want to hear back from them, and then you give it some closure and say your name and with your name and end.
Exactly, good. So especially when we're talking about like interviews or applying for jobs, right? That last bit is really important, right? Asking for a follow-up, right? And so, for example, if you send a CV or a resume on Monday and you don't hear back from them for a week or another week, it's always a good idea to send a follow-up email, right? To say like, hello, it's like, my name is Michelle. I sent you an email last Monday, right? I'm looking forward to your response here. Hope to hear from you soon. So that's always a good tactic to follow up with employers. If you really want the job and you haven't heard back from them, it's never a bad idea to send a second email like a week or 2 weeks after if you still haven't heard anything. That's always a good advice as well. So Simon, what would you tell people if they asked you for advice on being formal in an email situation?
Okay, first of all, I wanna point out that we have to be respectful, and it includes putting a good subject.
A good subject line? Very important.
Secondly, I'll say that we need to try to be very concise in everything we are writing. And finally, we need to say bye in a formal way that people can feel that we are writing to them honestly.
Honestly, exactly, good. And so another tip, good. And so another tip as we're wrapping up a little bit towards the end of class is back to the idea of sending out job letters, right? You always want to make sure that your email is personalized, right? So you don't want to send out 10 emails that are all the exact same wording to 10 different companies, right? So if you send an email with like a resume or a curriculum attached, you want to make sure that in the email you mention the specific company that you're applying for and the specific position, so that it's clear to them that you didn't just send the same email to 10 companies, right? So when you're applying for a job, you want to be specific about the employer so that they know that you took the time to write a separate email just for them, and that you're not sending out thousands of the same email just to see if anyone sends you one back. That makes sense?
Okay, thanks for the tip. I'll put them in practice.
Sorry?
Thanks for the tips. I will put them in practice.
I hope so. I hope it ends well for you.
Thanks.
They all should be very helpful tips for applying for jobs, responding to emails, anything like that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Do you guys have any questions?
I don't.
No, you don't. What about you, Simon? Simon? Simon?
No.
Okay, no questions? Okay, great.
No.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming to this Linguistiko class. I'll have another business email class later this week, and we'll read really specific examples, and we can talk about sending certain emails that have to do with applying for jobs, scheduling, conflicts, and things like that, and we'll read more examples. And I have another class today. Buenos Aires time, it's 12 midnight. I don't know what time zone you're in, Simon. But my next class is later today, and we're talking about life events and stories. So situations using the past simple and vocabulary to talk about family and life events. So I hope you guys continue to enjoy Linguistiko classes, and thank you so much for coming.
Thanks to you
Nice to
too.
meet you, teacher.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to be with you today.
Great. I hope you
I hope
enjoyed the
you
class.
have a great day.
I hope you have a great day too. Yes, so don't forget you can rate this class and give feedback and comments, and I'll email you guys with the link to do that afterwards. Okay? So I hope to see you in more of my classes.
I do.
Okay. See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
I do. Goodbye.